Hey everyone, this is Tasha Jackson from Naturally Inspired Media. And today I want to share my story of how I became a single mompreneur. And I'm going to guide you through essentially what my story was at the time that I began my business, the journey that I took, but then also how you can do the same for yourself. It's pretty short, so hopefully hang tight. And then also you can visit my website, naturallyinspiredmedia.com, to learn more about who I am and what it is that I do, or you can watch a variety of videos on my channel. There's an entire playlist, Who is Tasha Jackson? Go ahead and check that one out. And if you are returning, thank you so much. If you're new here, welcome. And I hope that my journey and my story is educational and inspiring to others. So a little bit more about me. I have been a kindergarten through adult educator for 15 years. I began my entrepreneurship journey 3 years ago at the beginning of COVID. So, of course, during that time, everyone's life changed, but mine changed significantly during that time. And only last year did I contract COVID-19, and I had the Omicron variant. And I'll talk about that just briefly because I do have other videos about that, including a series called Tasha's Long COVID Kitchen. So again, check out all the playlists on my channel. And I really have struggled to find work that supports my single life and my long hauler life. So the entrepreneurial journey chooses you. Most people have major life changes to their career. That's really the first thing that I want everyone to understand. I have had the pleasure of interacting with a large number of people, and over my lifetime, I have seen people shift and change from one profession to another, something that was completely different than what they were doing before. And so that wasn't the scary part, but it was the what am I going to do part. And so the what was I going to do and where would I eventually end up, that is part of the story that I want to share with you today. So um, I knew I wanted to take my talents and skills to the next level, but I wasn't really sure, um, what it was that I wanted to do. And so when the pandemic came, that was my opportunity. And so I seized my opportunity wholeheartedly and very much so embraced it. And so the first business that I was in the process of purchasing was Natural Awakenings, the San Diego franchise. And so I was working on, taking ownership of that part of the franchise from February, which was about a month before the pandemic began. And then, unfortunately, it didn't survive the pandemic due to many of the restrictions that were in California. And so that part of the franchise, unfortunately, went out of business. I did not take ownership of it. Thank goodness it had went out of business before I had the ability to take ownership of it. So from there, I said, well, I like being a business owner. It's very different from teaching, but I can utilize so many of my talents and skills, which is what I was looking to do anyway. And during that time, I jumped into a lot of meetups and met a lot of small business owners and just started networking and doing a lot of different types of networking and meeting a lot of different types of business owners and what it is that they do and what's their niche and what are they good at. And what I found was a ton of creativity. It was a whole new world of creativity and art and how people were expressing themselves and how they were supporting themselves from that. I essentially went around and just met all of these people. And then I found someone who was a part of an MLM. And I said, yeah, sure. Why not? I'll try this out because, again, I didn't know what I was going to excel at. But along the way, I started learning about marketing and graphic design and editing and networking and social media marketing, and began to accumulate and develop all of these resources and began to navigate the small business world and found that there is such a huge amount of information that you can get online for free. Many of the major marketing firms, they all have YouTube channels that you can learn from. And so that's essentially what I started doing. I was approached by someone who said, "Hey, you're a teacher. Can you do online curriculum?" And so I said, "Yeah, I can." And then I became a vice president of that company through the work and the efforts that I did. And so, how to develop large scale programs to mentor and train other professionals. At that time, I was training and mentoring doctors and nurses. And I sharpened my mentoring skills through that. And then I learned, things like back end operations, creating contracts, website design, how to manage small teams. I learned a multitude of a multitude of marketing techniques and strategies, including affiliate marketing. I learned how to open like an online store. I took my skills that I learned from running the magazine, which was graphic design, advertising, editing, networking, social media marketing, and I started to begin and develop resources for being a small business owner. And so all of those things that I had learned from doing the magazine transferred over directly into my new position as vice president. So I was vice president of a startup that eventually turned global within 2 years. It was pretty amazing. And then, unfortunately, due to COVID and some other factors, I had to resign my position because I was too sick. However, you need income. So, what is it that you are going to do? And so I said, well, where can I draw inspiration from? And I live in Arizona, where we have many day laborers that stand at gas stations waiting to get picked up to go to work for the day. And those people, those men, they can get picked up for carpentry one day and landscaping the next day, plumbing or whatever. You have to be ready. And so the more skills you have, then you can get picked up by everyone potentially that drives up and is looking for a particular type of person to do a particular type of job. And so I said, you know what? I am going to have that be my inspiration. I am going to pull together all of my marketable skills, what I had created already, along with my love of supporting and nurturing others and the teaching and mentoring part. I said, that's what I'm going to do to create my business. And so I worked while I was sick and started creating some materials. And as my health improved, I was able to sit up and build my website, design my logo and all of these different types of things. And so, this has been a major part of my journey that really came into my life and chose me. I was, I knew of Natural Awakenings because I read the magazine and I responded to an ad in the magazine. And so little did I know that that is the journey that I would be on, was, one day owning my own business. And so thank you so much for supporting a small business owner. I do course, website, and graphic design. I also do digital media marketing, writing, editing, and proofreading, business consultation, and mentorship. I also have written a couple of books and I have some courses based off of those books. So I am more of a spiritualist, business type person. Many of the decisions that I make are based on my spiritual principles and my morals. And so that is the place with which I do business from. That's part of what this presentation will be about, is how to take your own beliefs and principles and how do you take that, marry it together with the things that you love to do, and how you best creatively express yourself and how do you make money from that. And so we are going to cover just a couple of different topics within chapters in the book. The book is not very big. It's 94 pages, so it's a really quick read. It is meant to be a very quick, fast, easy, this is what you need to do type of book versus a very long, drug out. It's not a textbook type of situation there. And so hopefully you find it easy to read and implement. And then my contact information is in the book and on the website. So you're more than welcome to reach out to me and contact me for any questions that you might have. Okay, so the first thing is discovering your why. What is your inspiration? What are your passions? Most importantly, what type of service do you want to provide to the community? Whether you provide straight services like I do, or you have a brick and mortar store where you have products, you still have to provide some level of customer service. And with the products that you're selling, how are you serving the public? What are you drawn to? Most importantly, what repulses you? I'm sorry, accountants. I hate accounting, and I try to make it as easy on myself as possible. What does your heart need to experience? We're all at a time in life right now when we're all striving to make significant changes in our life, or we want to make those changes. And so, what is it really that you desire, and what emotions does that bring up for you? That's something that you should really sit with and think about and contemplate, because that is going to drive the next part of discovering your why, which is your business model, because you are your business model. And so it's the sum of who you are and how you want to serve other people. And so, what are your passions? What are you great at? What skills do you have? How can you best serve your community with your passion? And then, of course, how are you making money from that? And so, when I was putting together my rate sheet, I had to sit and think, okay, these are my marketable skills. These are what the general market rates for these types of services are. Okay, how many clients or how many customers or how many bottles or jars of something, do you need to sell in order to completely be independent? Those are all things that you need to consider when you are discussing the monetary part, or you're thinking about or contemplating the monetary part. There are different business archetypes. So as you are thinking about your business model, you should also think about what archetype you are. There are 14. I have only put 4 here as an example. For me, I am the nurturing and helpful type. And so again, how could I take my support and nurturance of others, that guidance and care that I strive for when I give service to others in my community, and whichever capacity that is, right? Whether I was teaching or whether I was helping to coach other professionals, I always wanted to be helpful, share resources, and really bring people together in a community of a shared space. Think about what life skills you have. What are some of your past experiences? So, again, as a teacher, how could I carry forward all of the skills and talents that I had into what it was that I needed to be doing or wanted to be doing, or was in some cases forced or pushed. I didn't want to learn social media marketing, to be honest. And then look, it turns out that I'm pretty good at it. So I discovered a bunch of hidden talents that I didn't know that I had. That's how you acquire skills as well, right? And then what kind of space are you leaving yourself to be innovative? I all the time am thinking about, how can I do it different? How can I be more unique? How can I, not necessarily how can I stand out more, but how can I attract the type of clients that I prefer to work with? And so those are all the types of questions that you want to answer for yourself in preparation for creating your business model. And then, most importantly, how do you define success? Everyone has a different definition. Some people believe it's how much money you have in the bank. For me, it's how much freedom do I have? I need to experience the majority of the day. And so I prefer to work from home now than I did before, much more than I did before. I mean, COVID, I'm sure a lot of people prefer to work from home now, but I could see how much easier it was as a single mom to really navigate everything that I needed to be. It helped me to have a better work life home balance. And so for me to be able to take my kids and go on vacation and still be able to work, or, take my kids to appointments, and while they're in their appointment, I'm doing work, I needed to have a lot of freedom and flexibility. And so for me, my most important thing and my measure of success is how much of a better work home life balance could I have? And then how do we manifest that dream? So the book is From Dream to Reality. And so how do we get there? So first we have to think a thought, or the thought has to come to us through inspiration, aha moment, epiphanies, prayers answered, whatever you prefer. And then once it kind of pops into our head, then we start visualizing it and we're like, that's something. And then you start to feel it and you're like, I really think I could do that. I think that's something that interests me. I think I have the skills, right? And then you move through from the thinking part to the feeling part of more confidence of, I know I can do it. I'm confident in my ability to do that. So then once you become confident in your ability to do a thing, then you take inspired action. So what inspired actions do you need to take, which is the next chapter of the book, nuts and bolts. What inspired action is it that you need to take in order for your manifestation of your dream to be realized? So step one, choosing a business type. And I say step one for the nuts and bolts part of it. So step one is, of course, really thinking about it. Then, okay, I have made a decision. And then the inspired action, right, of creating your business model and things, and kind of sketching out what is it going to look like, or how is it going to look, and really starting to kind of dig into it, right? And so this part of the presentation is starting to get into what it is that you actually need to do to manifest. So you may want to grab a pencil and paper and write some of these things down, or you're welcome to take screenshots of these things. They are not only in the book, but they're also in the course that accompanies the book, which has, of course, much more resources and is updated more frequently than I update the book. Most people choose an LLC, especially if you're by yourself. It's the one that makes the most sense. For most people, you can go and you can do your research on the government website. It does explain, it's the IRS's website. You can go on and you can read and understand what it is that each of those business types. When choosing a business type, an LLC is the most common. On the irs.gov's website, it does explain what each of these business types are. You know your situation best and which one you should choose. If you are one person, it makes the most sense to have an LLC. If you have a partner, and depending on if your partner is your long-term life partner or your spouse, again, you may want to choose to have an LLC, but if you are in a situation of maybe siblings, you may want to choose a partnership. Again, there are pros and cons to each one. And you would need to go to the website to learn more about which one is going to fit your situation the best. And so the nuts and bolts. Here is the step-by-step, process. And so while you're waiting for one thing, you can be doing other things, right? So it's not a 1, 2, 3, and once you finish one, then you can do 2. No, you can do like 1 and 4. That's an example. It's not literal. And so there are some of these things that you can do simultaneously, but these are the things that you need to do. Then with some additional operations information, you have to think about, how is the company's leadership going to be integrated into, your company, your small business? What is it that you're going to do? If it's just you, then of course you're the one who has to think about all of these things. So moving on to some other aspects of operations. This is not everything that there is, but these are the ones that I really wanted to highlight. And within each defined role, there are numerous responsibilities. And these are not the only things under each category, but these are, again, some of the most important things that I felt needed to be called out within each. And so if you're one person, you would think about all of these things. However, if you are in a company, such as I was, then you would have a person who is the leadership, that is the CEO, maybe. The systems person, that would be the COO, right? And then the culture person, who is the marketing person, who is responsible for pulling together the brand and what does the brand culture look like. And so again, there are a large number of things that go into each category. And again, there are additional categories. And so as your business grows, whether that's either by yourself or with another person, as your business grows, these are things that you would want to consider and more. The next thing to consider is going to be funding. I do have some personal experience with the first three. As I was going to purchase the magazine, I was looking at different loans. I filled out the very lengthy, very exhausting application to become a government contractor, to be on the government contractor list. When I was vice president of the company I was with, we were out looking for investors, and I do work with clients that also are looking for investors and need investment decks. And I threw discounts on here because it's not necessarily that you get a discounted business, but as a single mom, I don't have, I'm offering services. And so for me, the way that I was able to build my business was through discounts. So being a teacher and having a teaching license afforded me the ability to, utilize programs that offered discounts for teachers. There are numerous ones out there for military vets. There are free versions of things. And so you don't have to spend thousands and thousands of dollars on a business if you can take advantage of discounts and freebies and other types of ways that you can save money or appropriate money for your business or allocate money for your business in a different way. The next part is, how are you going to engage with your customers? And the inspiration for this came from customer service. When you call any customer service, call center or something like that, what is it that they are trained to do? And they are trained to do, I'll just say, kind of old school. This is what customer service should be and what this should look like. However, as our culture changes, as our communities change, as education has changed, all of these factors now are, in my opinion, something that is kind of a lost art, and which is why I have brought it up. And so engaging fully with your customer, retention is key, and so are referrals. Referrals are the number one driver of business. And therefore, resonating with your customers on a very deep level, that is what is going to build brand loyalty. And that is also what is going to have your customers refer you to others. And so how do you engage fully? Ask direct questions. Ask yes or no. Do not leave open-ended questions, because if you leave open-ended questions, then people can fill in the gaps and then miscommunications can occur. So try your best to ask yes or no questions when speaking with your customers. Listen intently and mindfully. So if you're stocking shelves in your store and you have a customer asking you questions, don't keep unpacking the box in the store. Stop, face the customer, look at the customer, greet the customer, and, listen to what it is that their problem is, because a lot of times people describe something that's actually something else. And so if like, oh, that one thing, it looks like this, right? And they're thinking, oh, well, I think it's this, but then it turns out to be something completely different. That would be a good example of that. And so when you listen mindfully, then you can help them find what it is. Because many times when you navigate that conversation and you hear what they're actually trying to describe or what they're actually trying to say, and then you provide them with that service, they're like, oh my gosh, this is actually what I was looking for, but I was confused, or maybe they were given misinformation, or maybe they got the information from a third party because they were a referral. And so you want to provide that excellent customer service to people by listening intently and mindfully and understanding what their real need is. Once you understand what the real need is, then you can make customer focused decisions. So instead of trying to sell customers what you want them to buy, sell them what they came in for, and then make a recommendation and say, oh, well, you purchased this, maybe you want to try this. And then integrate new information to think of creative solutions to solve customers. If you have certain customers that keep repeatedly having the same issue, think of a creative way to try to solve that issue, and then tell those customers, hey, you were my inspiration for making this change in my business. And then watch how those customers will definitely refer you. And also, you will have retention. I know it's cliche, but SMART goals work. And I swear by and live and die by SMART goals. Do I always achieve them? No, because not everyone hits the mark 100% of the time, of course. However, have I gotten pretty close and then either saw, oh, this is not for me, or was unable for whatever reason beyond my realm of control, I had to stop? Yeah. But when I did have very specific goals, then I was able to achieve them in a very short period of time because I could remain focused. I would clear my calendar, I would dedicate time, and I would remain focused on achieving my goals. So I know a lot of you are going to be like, oh, SMART goals, but they're so effective. And then how do you resonate with your customers on social media? It's a lot. So I do have a course that I'm working on now. Of course, and a book, and as soon as I finish writing both of those, I will, of course, let everyone know. I'll put out a big announcement. But the main thing is people really are going to flock to you if you develop a sense of curiosity. Like, what is that? Who is that? One of the major things that you have to remember is that people aren't really buying your product. They're buying you because your product is a part of you. It's a creative thing, or it's a service that you provide. It's who you are. And so if you start to get people curious about who you are and what it is that you do and why not necessarily your product is amazing, but what is so unique about your product. And it's not a sales pitch. If you think about it like a sales pitch, then it comes out salesy. But if you think about it like, oh, this is my story and what it is that I do, and you draw that sense of curiosity, you'll be much more effective. And then really convey that passion along with that curiosity. And then always strive for improvement. How can I always do better? So I have made the plan to launch my business. I've set my goals. I've used whatever data I have. So maybe I had to do a bunch of research on, can I make it in the world as a social media marketer? Let me go and read 100 million articles about why that's the hottest, latest, best thing on the planet right now. Okay, yes, I decided I'm going to do that. So I'm going to take action. I'm going to learn, study, practice, start practicing with my own social media. That's what I have done in order to improve my skills or refine my skills, and watch webinars and attend sessions. And so again, if you start doing all of these things and you start practicing, and maybe, grandma needs an update on her Instagram, or you want to make, Instagranny sensation or something like that, just start practicing, reading the articles, watching the webinars. you are giving yourself your own education, right? So did I need to go back to school to earn, a bachelor's degree in marketing on top of the master's degree that I already have? No. I took all the skills that I learned from the master's degree, put that into learning business and business management and being an entrepreneur, and started gaining clients, putting myself out there, showing people what I can do, built a digital portfolio, did my website, put myself out there, showed people what it is that I can do, and I started attracting people to myself. And then I always am continuously revising. Your website is a living thing. Your website will never be finished. I updated my website 3 times this week because I wanted to make little tweaks, or I found a typo somewhere, even though I'm an English teacher and I proofread the thing 100 times, right? And so I'm always looking, how do I improve? Especially within social media, it changes quite often. So I have to stay on top of everything that's going on in that sphere so that I can do what's best for my clients. Probably the most fun part of developing your craft is meeting other entrepreneurs and creating an entrepreneurial network. And I have met some very strange but very interesting people that I won't ever forget because they said something inspiring, educational, gave me words of wisdom, gave me advice. I learned how other people ran their business and other ways of being an entrepreneur. All of these things I learned from the intricate web and network of small business owners that were local to San Diego and then now are local to the Phoenix Valley. And so it's so weird because just today I went out for lunch with my son and I ended up meeting another small business owner and we exchanged business cards, and so it's that kind of thing where you just start bumping into small business owners everywhere. You start connecting with small business owners in a way that is, very interesting. Again, today I met a lady while I was having lunch and she asked me, how do you learn how to use chopsticks? And that's how the conversation started. So it's so interesting and it's so fun. It's one of my most favorite fun things to do about being a small business owner, especially a single mom. As your business grows, what are some of the things that you need to focus on? And what are some of the things that you can leave on autopilot and check in with? And it's these types of things. Or what are the market trends? Or what is the most latest research that's out? Or what are some new products that can support my business? Because technology is rapidly advancing faster than it ever has in the history of humankind. And so there are many ways with which your business can be supported, the way you can be supported, the way you can support your family, the way that you can support other business owners. All of those things are part of developing your craft. And be reflective and be honest. If working with customers is starting to wear on you, then what else in your business can you focus on? Or how can you make that pivot? How can you make a shift? In my business, I have passive income streams and I have active income streams. And so when I have a dry spell of clients, that's when I work on my passive income things. So writing the books, putting together the courses, making presentations, those types of things. And so that's when I shift to focus on a different part of my business. Or if you're working with a partner, maybe you can shift and you can say, hey, I really hate doing that accounting. I do it because it needs to be done. And that's the honest truth. But it's not my space jam. Can we switch responsibilities? Can I do the marketing now? Can you show me how to do that if you don't know how, right? And so learn other aspects of your business and learn how to do them well. If not, of course, you can always outsource that if you need to. But again, it's really being reflective on how can I deliver better service? If I'm getting burnt out, what can I do differently? Think about those things because they're all going to be drivers in your journey. And then I have just a couple of tips for success. Number 1, scale for your size. Don't go broke. Use discounts. I met a couple that made vegan tacos that were pretty amazing and they were saving up to buy a huge food truck. And I said, why would you save money to buy a huge food truck when you can get a smaller cart that has maybe a propane tank underneath? Because where I live, there are a lot of pop-up taco stands on the corner and things like that. I said, you just get something like that. And I said, you know, with an umbrella, beach umbrella, and you go around and you sell your tacos. And I said, then maybe you work up slowly as you start to increase your business. Then you work up to the next thing, right? Or maybe you keep that little stand until then you have enough money for the truck, right? And so I see people that think that in order to start a business, I need to have a ton of money. You don't. I'm going to be honest. I started my business for $300. That was it, because I used a lot of discounts and I took advantage of the free things. And so within my first month, my business was profitable because my profits exceeded my expenses. My expenses were only 300, and then I had 3 clients. So it's, you know, you can say that with much more confidence when you know that you haven't spent as much money. The next thing is, if you can do it, I can do it too attitude. I can't stress this part enough. I live and die by this phrase. If other people can do it, I can do it too. I have watched an insane amount of YouTube over the past 3 years, figuring out how to do business and be better at business and how to work within the business world, because that is the world that I was thrust into. And so I went from education to business. Was it a huge transition or very different? No, because I found a lot of similarities in between the two that I could grab onto. It wasn't like I felt I was drowning. Network as much as possible. Small business owners will either also become your clients or they will refer you. So network as much as possible and build a really tight network of other small business owners in your industry. One of the perceptions that I want to try to change is that of competition. So if you look within your industry, I don't want you to think of every person in your industry as competition. I want you to start to think of every person in your industry as your fellowship. And your fellowship has unique abilities. Each person within your fellowship has unique abilities that they tap into in order to provide that product or service in a different way. So again, you're not selling the same cream or lotion as someone else. You're selling that cream or lotion that was created from your creative energy. And so when you begin to think about sales in that capacity versus a competitive capacity, then you will be able to shine much brighter, attract more people to you, because you come from that place of, this is who I authentically am. Because again, your clients and your customers, they want to see the authentic you. They want to see you. It's the mom and pop. Everyone loves the mom and pop. And then say yes to everything within reason. I said yes to having lots of different entrepreneur experiences because I didn't know where I was going to fit. I didn't know what I was going to do. I didn't know how it was going to look. And so it's important to learn what it is that you want, but also what you don't want, right? I left the industry that I was in because I realized that it's just not what I wanted, right? Having a franchise, I figured out that that's not what I wanted, because even though you have the franchise, you still have to abide by corporate rules. And being an Aquarius, I'm not that type of person. And so I really need to do my own thing. And so I knew franchise was not for me. MLM was not for me because I'm going to be honest, it felt really cultish. So I felt very uncomfortable being there. And they did have great marketing tips, and I liked that part. So I took that part with me and continued on my journey, right? And so I learned that, okay, I want to provide services and I want to do it in this way. And I want to work by myself because I need to have a very flexible schedule. And so what has it been that I've really learned over the past 3 years? And so I overcame tons of fears. I learned and developed many new talents. I found hidden talents and sharpened existing ones. I fell in love with a new way of expressing myself. I didn't have the confidence to start a YouTube channel and speak very publicly, even though I could do it in a classroom. being on stage was something that was always a little frightening to me. And then I realized I didn't need to go back to school in order to embrace the new calling. I just needed to spend my time looking at quality resources in order to further my objectives in order to meet my goal. But I also learned about how money works, and it works in a completely different way than what I had understood before. That my talents are valuable and they can be of service to others, and people will pay for that service because they see the value in it. That I can continuously improve. So the professional development piece of it, I attended a webinar this morning. I registered for and I attended a webinar, a Canva webinar. Right. And so I continue that professional development so that I can stay on top of what it is that I need to do for my clients. And then I put my family at the center of my life instead of work. Now the work gets done after my housework gets done. My house needs to stay firm first, and then I do my work. But I do have my structured time that I have set aside. Again, my goal was to have a better work home balance. And so in order to achieve that, I have to say, okay, I have this and this and this responsibility. How do I weigh that out against the other things? And then I strengthen my family in this way because I'm better able to support both of my children from staying home and providing to them the tools and resources that they need to be successful in their endeavors. And then most importantly, I strengthen my faith and trust in God because I achieved what I thought unthinkable, right? Like I always would say to myself, I could never own my own business. I could never own my own business. I had worked in small stores before, I've worked in mom and pops, and I just was always like, I could never run my own business. But then look, here it is. I'm doing it. Right. I want to thank you all again for, liking, sharing, subscribing. I do have Naturally Inspired Media on Facebook, Instagram, and then of course, again, subscribe to my channel. Thank you so much for supporting me. Hopefully I'll see you on my website or on one of my other platforms. And if you need to contact me, please contact me through my website. There is a consult and contact page.